Hello and welcome to Smart Money, brought to you by Daily Investor. I'm Alishia Seckam. Well, Discovery Bank's annual SpendTrend report continues to garner insights on consumer spending behavior in South Africa. And joining me now to get into some of the latest shifts we're seeing is Hylton Kallner. He's CEO of Discovery Bank. Hylton, thanks so much for joining us today. So why is this research and the kind of data that comes through the SpendTrend report important for Discovery Bank?
Alishia, thanks for having me. SpendTrend is now an annual survey or analysis that we do in conjunction with Visa. It really enables us to identify and understand at the kind of the most granular, deep level consumer behaviors and how they are spending money, what they're spending money on, and what the general trends are in terms of overall spend among South Africans and relative to our global counterparts. And that's exactly what SpendTrend 24 does.
As you highlight there, it's research done in collaboration with Visa. Why does the partnership between Discovery Bank and Visa work?
Visa obviously provides us with access to a global data set that is completely unique and the largest of its kind in the world. It allows us to compare and contrast and benchmark South African spending habits and behaviors against our global counterparts, looking at developed countries and developing countries, and at kind of a city-to-city level to be able to compare our South African consumers and their behaviors and the trends that are likely to emerge in South Africa as a result of studying and understanding and comparing our spend habits using Visa's data against what they see in other markets across the world. So this year is quite unique in that we've included 14 cities across the globe, going back with over 5 years worth of data and over 13 billion transactions that were analyzed as part of SpendTrend. So it really does give us a kind of a unique insight into how consumers are behaving.
Yeah, a very deep insight. And we'll be getting into a bit more of the detail on that in terms of global comparisons in just a bit. Before we do, what was very apparent in the data collected this time around, Hylton, is that consumers seem to be more conscious and cautious about their spending habits. Many would say hardly surprising, right?
Yeah, I think completely kind of intuitive in a sense when you think about the rate environment in which we've been through over the last 12 months. And we've seen real pressure at a consumer level around interest rates and the impact that that's had at a discretionary spending level. Notwithstanding that, South African spending has been fairly resilient across all income categories, whereby we've seen discretionary spend being maintained at similar levels to last year. And so while consumers are becoming much more value-based, and you can see that in kinds of the things that people are spending money on, the actual total spend itself has really persisted and been fairly resilient, particularly in comparison to kind of other cities where we've seen much more volatility in the analysis.
Yeah, where you're comparing things on a geographic basis. So let's home in on things on a demographic basis, because your report splits the clients into 4 segments based on their spending volumes. So, what trends have been noted between the different segments, and how much of a distinction needing to be made?
Yeah, so I think the way that we've kind of subdivided the segments is really around kind of the mass market, mass affluent, and the high net worth segments of the market, and you can see a kind of an inflation effect and interest rate effect really kind of coming to the fore in the mass market, where we do see inflationary pressures, and I suppose that's to be expected. At the high net worth segment of the analysis, we see much less kind of immediate impact. But we do see changes in terms of how people spend their money, with an increase in areas like groceries relative to other areas of spend. And what's interesting is we see travel being sustained at high levels, the high levels that we saw pre-COVID. And in fact, the kind of the post-COVID bump that we saw last year, that return to travel that we noted in our SpendTrend 23 report has been sustained, particularly at the upper income segments in the report.
Okay, so let's get now into those global comparisons that you alluded to at the top there. How did South African spend trends fare when compared to trends in other countries?
South Africans, quite interestingly, tend to spend a bit more on groceries for their home than other countries, and more on transport as well. And we think that that's kind of reflective of the fact that other countries are spending more on takeout relative to South Africans. We do like a braai, and that kind of comes through pretty clearly in the survey results. But fuel is an interesting one as well, because South Africans drive more than our counterparts in other cities, where you may see greater use of public transport than what we observe in South Africa. Travel tends to be underrepresented in our segment, particularly international travel relative to our global peers. But the sort of the domestic travel that we noted in the prior year's report among South Africans has been sustained, and that's a great indicator of kind of economic activity in South Africa, and South Africans themselves enjoying the kind of the tourist attractions that we have within our borders.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's take it now to, payment options, because digital payment options are being adopted rapidly. How's South Africa stacking up against the rest of the world as far as going digital is concerned?
So what we noted in the report is that we have got the fastest growth rate in digital payments and digital wallet adoption in the world, and that really is, I think, a strong indication of just how digitally advanced our banking is. For Discovery Bank, that's a great indicator for us as a digital first digital bank, and rapid digital wallet adoption obviously reflects the kind of the efficacy of digital payments, and from our perspective, that's really encouraging. But we are global leaders in that space, and I think it does reflect the fact that South African banks and the banking system as a whole is market leading, and from a technology perspective is really at the forefront globally. So we've seen that within South Africa, digital wallet growth is accelerating within South Africa itself, and South Africa clients. The Discovery Bank client is using our digital wallets nearly twice as much as the rest of the South African population. So we kind of are accelerating ahead, and I suppose that's reflective of our model in totality. But we've really seen a drive towards digital and online payments as well reflect that, where there's been really strong growth in online purchases, which is kind of reflecting the same trend.
All of that said, Hylton, what are some of the barriers to these payment systems that still persist?
The take-up of mobile technology obviously is kind of a natural barrier to digital payments. But what we're seeing is that the mobile telephony in South Africa is really kind of state of the art as well, and that's also fueling the adoption rates that we are seeing. So from our perspective, we don't really see kind of a short-term barrier. We're seeing the acceleration of digital payments come through, and we're seeing it come through all over the place. So things like home delivery services for groceries are growing much faster than in-store, while people still like to kind of go and shop in a physical store. We've seen this kind of phygital move where it's almost a hybrid shopping behavior, but driven to a large extent by the emergence of home delivery services, which are really, really gaining traction in South Africa, and streaming services, which have proved so popular. So kind of our client base certainly we're seeing is moving online.
So a whole lot of data being extracted from the research. How's Discovery Bank, using that to inform its decision making and product development?
So it manifests in a number of areas. The first is how we kind of guide our clients in terms of budgeting. And Vitality Money is a core product for us. It helps us ensure that our clients are financially healthier, and understanding their kind of consumption behaviors, and gaining insight into that enables us to help them make better financial decisions in terms of how they shop and where they shop. From a service perspective, it allows us to really kind of understand where our clients are spending their money. So we've seen a significant shift in growth in online, and so we supported that with digital vouchers for our clients that they can now access through our app, and travel, where you can now book your flight, access the lounges across all of the airports in South Africa. And we've created an entire ecosystem around that, from kind of the booking all the way through to fast tracking through security, the lounge service, and then booking accommodation on the other side. So kind of understanding how our clients are spending their money enables us to kind of design ecosystems around that make their life easier and more affordable.
Absolutely. Well, Hylton, let's leave it there. Thanks so much for having joined us in conversation today. Hylton Kallner is, of course, CEO of Discovery Bank.